station and news you need. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. Well, today sees another need for detours for your commute home. Crews had closed 3200 South between US 8991 and 1200 West in Nibley. Closure will go starting this morning all the way to September 25th. The closure will allow crews to connect the newly constructed section of roadway to the existing 3200 South. Local access for residents who live east of the new road will be maintained via 1200 West. Access for residents and businesses west of the new road will be maintained via US 8991. The final project will consist of the intersection being realigned and actually moved north a little bit with traffic signals and more of a 90-degree configuration with 8991. The 3200 South intersection has been a very dangerous one for years with increasing traffic. During this coming week's closure, motorists are asked not to drive through the hard closure area. Please use marked detours and remember to drive carefully when traveling through construction areas and pay attention to all traffic signs, stakes, barrels, and the workers and equipment that are operating within the work zones. To receive weekly updates, you can contact the Public Information Team at 3200S intersection at utah.gov and enter 3200 South Update in the subject line. KVNU News Time is 5:04. KVNU weather for tonight. Slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm this evening. Low around 50. 20% chance of afternoon showers and storms on Tuesday. Otherwise partly cloudy. Around 80 degrees for the high. Slight chance of storms Tuesday night and again on Wednesday. Wednesday's high in the upper 70s. It's been to 82. It's 80 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Logan Extermination. Fall is here, but those pesky weeds are still popping up all over your lawn. Call Logan Extermination to get ready for winter. 435-752-8450.
U&I Furniture has always been here to give you great value for your money. When it comes to home furnishings, it really is always a better buy at U&I. And right now, U&I is closing out last year's model mattresses. Closeouts on new models and displays too. Memory foam, innerspring, and hybrids from a number of different name brand manufacturers. And ask U&I to show you this popular copper-infused mattress that sleeps cooler. And did you know U&I has a good selection of sheets and mattress protectors too? U&I Furniture, over 90 years in downtown Logan. There's always a better buy at U&I.
KVNU News Time is 5:06. Motorists traveling between Logan and Mendon have another detour to plan ahead for during the next week. Construction crews closed a section of Mendon Road, 600 South, on Sunday. According to a press release, the Cache County Public Works Department is upgrading a damaged culvert at about 2300 West. They will then be repaving a section of the road. The closure will be in effect each day between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. to all through traffic between 2000 and 3200 West. Motorists will be detoured onto 2200 South to get around the construction each day. Crews will be working on the culvert Sunday and Monday and then paving the road from Tuesday to Friday. Access to residents and businesses will be maintained. And the Cache County Board of Education has proposed bond projects to address school building needs for students in the district. District officials said substantial enrollment growth and state funding for all-day kindergarten has greatly increased the demand for classroom space in the district's elementary schools. The district has experienced significant growth, adding 4,197 students since the 2013 bond was passed. According to the proposal presentation, various schools are operating over capacity, including 11 elementary schools and 1 middle school. The district also counts with 38 portable classrooms. Although the state has approved funding for all-day kindergarten, several schools cannot offer this service due to operating over capacity. KVNU News Time is 5:07. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
If you've recently moved into our community or are attending Utah State, on behalf of the Cache Valley Media Group, we welcome you. As you settle in, we encourage you to support our local businesses. In fact, pick up a free copy of the Best of Northern Utah magazine. Let it be your compass for discovering the best our community has to offer. From quaint bookstores to delicious bakeries, electricians to dentists, coffee shops to florists. These businesses were voted the very best in our community. Go to bestofnorthernutah.com for magazine pickup locations.
As you get older, it's more important than ever to eat healthy. But that can be hard for those of us who are retired and living on a fixed income, especially during COVID-19. A friend told me about benefitscheckup.org. It's a free website from the National Council on Aging, and it's helped millions of older Americans pay for healthy food. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org. You've earned this. This message is supported by the Administration for Community Living.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Very excited about our next guest because this is an honor for me to both to hear a voice that I'll be honest I've missed. Not that current leadership in the state has made me miss this voice, but just someone that through the years has always been gracious to give us his time and a great interview, and probably I would say someone that knows the state of Utah better than anyone through various roles in public service dating back decades. Joining us right now to talk about a new institute of public policy for students, elected officials, thought leaders, and more at the Utah Valley University campus, former Governor Gary Herbert. And Governor Herbert, it's a pleasure to have you join us here on the show. What have you been up to?
Well, first, let me say, Jason, it's an honor to be on the show with you again. And I've missed our little chats from the past, but it's good to get back together.
Sure.
I've been busy. My wife says I thought we were going to retire. And we have cut down from 70 hours a week and have our days in 15 and 30-minute increments. So now I'm only doing about 35 hours a week. So I told my wife, Jeanette, that's like being half-time. So we're still pretty busy. And our institute's growing down at Utah Valley University, and we hope to make a difference with the students there, discovering how to make public policy happens. What is good public policy? What should they be doing as the rising generation impact change for the better? And so I enjoy, like one of the things we do is I have hoagies with Herbert. So we feed them for lunch. They come for the food and stay for the discussion on politics. So
nice.
It's been an exciting thing, and we had to raise a bunch of money. We're still doing some of that, but I'm very pleased with the success we have had. We've had some really great guests. I know a lot of people, and we've had Mike Pence, former vice president, a couple of times.
Oh, wow.
We've had Tim Shriver, a good Democrat. Kennedy, some people wouldn't know him, but they know his sister was married to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Marie Shriver, and he's a good man and trying to do some things in his own way to make things more civil in the public discourse, which I applaud. Arthur Brooks, we've had Art Laffer, the former economic advisor for Ronald Reagan, has been here. So we've got a few. And October the 5th, I think we've got Paul Ryan coming in town.
Oh, wow.
Former Speaker of the House and Congress, and he'll be coming to speak. And in the spring, we've got Princess Rima Al Saud, who's the ambassador from Saudi Arabia, has become a good friend of mine and just a wonderful lady. And what they're doing in Saudi Arabia to open up opportunities for women, more tourism and trade in Saudi Arabia. And so it'll be interesting to hear what she has to say about the evolution that's taking place in the Middle East. particularly Saudi Arabia. So we got a few heavy hitters coming up, and just regular discussions, research on different topics, working with the students. So that's just one aspect of my life which keeps me pretty busy.
It's all very exciting to talk about because I know, these institutes, the way they influence public policy, the way they can influence our legislature, both through direct publication of research or policy papers, but also through, student intern projects. I know there are several staffers on the Hill right now that started out as an intern of some way through something like the Herbert Institute.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great way to sort of build the bench for the leaders in the future. And of course, you're doing this with a goal in mind that's very much been on my mind recently. I read a survey about Generation Z that scared me. And the survey basically said they have very little hope and they have zero almost trust in our institutions. And that's one of the things directly you're trying to address through your personal work and through this institute, right?
Absolutely. It's hard to understand if you're not involved in the process. It's easy to lump everybody into they're all crooks, or they don't care, they don't know about me. But once you're up there and working the process, our interns come back and say, wow, I didn't realize how heavy of a workload that these legislators have to take on, the challenge it is to try to please everybody, which you can't do. The difference between, more government, less government, and that constant debate. They come back learning that the goals and objectives of what we're trying to accomplish on Republican or Democrat or any other party for that matter generally are the very same thing. We want to have a successful economy. We want to have good education. We want to have good environment. We want to have, a good place to live and raise your family. But how we do that, the journey, the pathway forward, the policy that we espouse to get to that end goal, that's where we sometimes differ. And so learning how to get together and work together to find common ground to advance the policy forward is getting to be a lost art. We don't do very well in Washington, D.C. We do a pretty good job here in Utah, but boy, they sure could use some help in Washington.
It's always striking to me that even those sometimes, speaking specifically about social media right now, I'll see people who I know maybe are politically similar to me, their opinions and their beliefs, and I'll see them talking to, say, a state lawmaker that I also happen to know either through interviewing them here on the show or, having the opportunity to even work with them on legislation over the years. And it'll shock me sometimes at the cruelty almost that I will see. And I always tease Senator Todd Weiler, I always have to go out and defend you because you're a nice guy. You're a very thoughtful guy. And he laughs it off. He can handle it. But that's always kind of been a personal lesson of mine, that these people that I met, actually met in person, it's hard to hate them after that, right?
Well, once you associate with people, get to know them, it is harder to hate them because you get to understand them. You know that they're not evil. And politics, unfortunately, and I don't know why exactly it's happened. I've got some theories on it. But why do we have a more and more an us versus them mentality? Us are always the good guys, and them is always the enemy. And so we're always right on the us side. Them is always wrong on the other side. And if they're evil and wrong, we need to destroy them. And so consequently, we get the pounding on people, probably unmercifully, inappropriately. And that's something we've got to see if we can't counter and get back to having respectful civil discussions where we, in fact, look for the good in people. I think most, in my own experience, and I've been 30 years, 6 months, and 5 days as an elected official, county commissioner and lieutenant governor and governor for nearly 12, I really have found very few people, all that I've met, not only here in Utah but across the country, of people that weren't just trying to do the best they could do, and give it their best shot and try to make the right policy decisions based on their own view of what is best for their constituency. I have not found a lot of corruption or people who are trying to take advantage of their position to feather their own nest. So I think most people are really good people out there trying to serve as best they can, and we ought to treat them better because of that.
As this can be applied as well for a lot of our listeners, they probably qualify themselves as legislative junkies or political junkies of the Utah process. And one thing that always stood out to me about your administration as governor, that there were times when there was a tense relationship between the legislature. This is what I think everyone misses. It's rarely arguments between Republicans and Democrats on the Hill. It's the House and the Senate arguing, or the House, Senate, and the governor's office having a disagreement. But throughout all of that, you maintained a relationship with the legislature that was never. You never threw bombs. You never really, at times, the bully pulpit was there as a tool, but you used it responsibly. And you left office as not only a very publicly popular governor, but very popular on the Hill. But that doesn't mean that there weren't times when everybody was on a whole different page, right?
Well, it happens. There's the old adage that we have 104 legislators, 29 in the Senate and 75 in the House, and all of them think they should be governor.
That's right.
And so, they're saying, well, he's not doing what I think we should do. I would do this differently if I was the governor. And I understand that. It's Governor Mike Lev used to call it a healthy tension between the executive branch and the legislative branch. I don't know how healthy tension is, but there is certainly that separation of the powers. The genius of our Constitution is the separate powers and the checks and balances it provides on each other. That would, of course, include the judiciary. And yet we've done things that probably have not helped us. We've politicized the bench. Why do we call any bench, any panel of judges, a conservative bench or a liberal bench? It should be just the bench. And certainly in the federal courts, that's just been abused so badly. And, of course, the top of the list is the Supreme Court. And that's not right. We've lost our way there. In our state courts, I've appointed about 105 judges, probably more than anybody in state history.
Wow.
But we didn't care whether they were Republicans or Democrats or religious, whatever their denomination may be they subscribe to. We didn't care. We didn't ever ask that question. We did ask very intently, though, how are you going to make a decision? On what criteria do you base your judgment? And the simple answer is they need to base their judgments based on the law and the actions that apply to the law, the facts of the case. What are the facts of the matter? And apply that to the law and then render a decision. And it doesn't matter what the law leads you to, but that's the decision you render. It shouldn't be, well, I wish it was this, or I hope it was something else, or the legislature needs to change the law. Render the decision, and then if they don't like it, then the legislature can change the law to fix whatever problem there may be. But we tolerate no activism on the bench from the left or the right, and that's the way it ought to be. But that's just part of the tension. And again, the executive and legislative branches kind of tussle back and forth on who's going to do what. And particularly, we've had a unique time during my spin. There was the COVID-19.
Sure.
All of a sudden, we have an emergency, and under the Constitution of the state of Utah, there are emergency powers given to the governor that need to be utilized because you can't wait. You can't wait to call them into session and have a discussion and debate. You need to act accordingly immediately. And so for, earthquake damage, fire, flood, pestilence, a pandemic, you're authorized to make some executive orders that kind of supersede the legislature, and they don't like that. But that's just kind of the way it's set up, and that's part of the law. So that adds to some of the tension and stuff that happens in our state and other states. So it's a constant work back and forth. The best thing we did in Utah is we communicate. We talk to each other. I would meet with Republicans and Democrats every week, their leadership. We would find out what's going on. What are the issues at hand? How are we doing with the budget? What are the things we need to do for infrastructure improvement, which were transportation and water? How are we doing with education? What are we doing to keep our teachers, get more teachers? What are we teaching to? Are we controlling our own standards? And how the curriculum is being taught in all of our different school districts by elected people, by the way. So there's always something to talk about. There's always change afoot. And, for me, what we try to do is keep a steady hand on the tiller so that we kept on that straight, narrow path of excellence. And consequently, the results are Utah is really the gold standard of state government in the nation.
Sure.
And the most healthy, diverse economy. People vote with their feet. We're growing. The last 10 years, the fastest growing state in America. And it's because we do the basics right. And we don't spend more than we take in. We don't have irrational debt. We save for a rainy day. We do all the things that everybody wants to do in their own household and their own business. And that's how we should run state government, too. And we do. And consequently, we're one of only about 10 states that have a AAA bond rating from all the rating agencies on Wall Street. That's somewhat remarkable about us, but it tells us a little bit about the people that are straying off the straight and narrow path in 40 other states.
That is, and you mentioned the pandemic there. That was, it ties right in with discussions about relationships and conversations and civility and all of that, dignity.
Yes.
Because I watched, as that played out, Utah, despite what some of the more dramatic things you might read on social media would imply, we never fully shut the state down, ever. We never mandated, ever, anything. And yet we're able to negotiate and responsibly respond to a public health crisis that was immense. But as you watch that play out, that had to be tied to having, the good relationships that you'd built with Senate leader, with the Speaker of the House, with, the Utah Department of Health, all of that. You were able to navigate these things, and it was never a big argument.
No, again, part of it was because we had open communication. We did a few stumbles here and there, I've had people ask me this question. If you had it to do over again, would you do it the same way? And I say, knowing what I know now, no, I would do some things differently. But knowing what I knew then, I would do it exactly the same way, because you go with the best information you have.
Sure.
I had very intelligent people, knowledgeable scientists, doctors, medical advisors around me for Utah. I trusted the Utah people. We relied upon them heavily to make a plan. We didn't just fly by the seat of our pants. We actually put in writing a plan to help Utah get out of the pandemic and move ahead. And consequently, because of all that we did, well, not perfectly, but I know even Glenn Beck, the great libertarian on the radio, a very conservative guy, said the state that handled the pandemic the best was Utah.
Our guest again has been former Governor Gary Herbert. Stick with us. More to come with our time with the former governor here, talking about the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy at Utah Valley University, launched recently, already making a big influence with publication of policy papers, a student intern program that's already up and running, public forums that you can view online and in person there on campus at UVU, a scholarship program and more, all of it with the goal of getting young people involved in the process, of course, but also with fostering a broader discussion about civility, respect, dignity, community, and trust in our civic institutions. All of this wrapped up in an institute that I would say, Governor, is a long time coming. So excited to talk about this with you today. And for our listeners, stay tuned. More time with former Governor Gary Herbert and discussion about the Herbert Institute, and the Dignity Index Project, Governor Cox's Disagree Better, and more to come here on KVNU's For the People.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. This hour, a conversation with former Governor Gary Herbert. It jokes at the start there, I know, about retirement and more. As the governor has told us, he went from about 70 hours a week to 35, and he's calling that retirement enough for the time being, at the request of his wife, of course. But he's still very involved, and everyone, I think, since you left office, has been wondering what would come next for you. Well, listeners, now we know. The Gary R. Herbert Institute of Public Policy has launched at Utah Valley University. This is an institute focused on developing future leaders here in Utah, policy leaders, building a community and reinforcing the idea of community in our legislative politics and more, our local politics. And then a challenge for the up-and-coming generation mainly, but for all of us to some extent, rebuilding trust in our civic institutions. They've taken a hit over the last 3-4 years in ways that are unfortunate, from election denial to a recent survey of Gen Z students showing they have zero hope that our elected officials will actually solve problems that are priorities to them, like climate change, immigration reform, the cost of getting an education. These are all top 3 priorities for young people these days, people under the age of 25, and they are the voters and the leaders of the future. And surveying, again, has shown repeatedly they just don't think anything is going to get done from our political leaders. As Governor Herbert has told us, that's unfortunate, and that's what gave him the idea for this. You can find the Institute on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, also at uvu.edu/Herbert Institute. We'll be getting back to our conversation with Governor Herbert here in just a bit. We'll talk about what civility and civic engagement means to him. We'll talk about what we can all do, because this isn't just for students. This isn't just for publishing policy papers for lawmakers to read. As Governor Herbert has told us, this isn't the hopes of causing a conversation to begin that will get us all to think about our own contribution, positively and negatively at times, to some of the ugliness we see in our politics today. So stay tuned. We'll continue the conversation with former Governor Gary Herbert right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:30, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. A Life Flight helicopter was deployed to rescue an injured dirt biker. Officials from the Wasatch County Search and Rescue said they were dispatched to the Little South Fork area of Provo and Wasatch County just after 1 o'clock on Saturday on a report of a 38-year-old female who had been injured while dirt biking. Search and rescue teams responded along with Wasatch Fire crews, and an Intermountain Life Flight helicopter was later called in due to the remoteness of the area. Search crews located the woman and ultimately decided that extrication would be safer with a Life Flight hoist. No other details were released. 2 suspects were taken into custody after officials seized a stockpile of drugs from them, including 1.5 pounds of meth and over 1,000 fentanyl pills, and located a drug lab in one of their homes. Officers with the Salt Lake City Police Department said that this investigation began shortly before 11:30 Wednesday morning when a traffic stop was conducted near 450 North, 900 West, and the officer on scene recognized the passenger of the vehicle as Braden Clough, a wanted fugitive. Police reportedly seized the car because it had no registration, and the driver, Jessica Jacobs, had a suspended driver's license. Officers searched the car and said they found a drug cache, including meth, cocaine, fentanyl pills, marijuana dab, and heroin. A search warrant was authorized for Jacobs' house, where officers found a hidden drug lab. Jacob reportedly admitted to manufacturing drugs in her home where several children were living. Jacobs was found to have an active warrant out for her arrest. Police booked Jacobs into the Salt Lake County Metro Jail on charges of not having a vehicle's license plate visible from 100 feet, failure to register a vehicle, being in possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, operating a clandestine drug lab, use or possession of drug paraphernalia, child endangerment, and driving on a suspended driver's license. Clough was booked into the Salt Lake County Metro Jail on charges of being in possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute and use or possession of drug paraphernalia. No other details were released. The founder of Exodus, a Utah nonprofit anti-human trafficking organization, has been arrested on over 30 felony charges, including fraud, theft, and forgery. The investigation began in June when Utah County deputies said they learned of allegations of fraudulent financial activity relating to Exodus. Investigators found that 37-year-old Candace Leard, formerly known as Candace Rivera, was a director of the company along with one other person. Court documents stated the business was registered in Utah from August 7, 2020 to December 27, 2022, when its registration expired for failure to file renewal. Investigators report that Leard was charged with felony fraud in 2022 after writing an $8,000 fraudulent check to a vendor for services provided during an event hosted by Exodus. Since September 10, 2020, Leard allegedly misrepresented herself as a licensed registered nurse, falsely stated that she held a position with the United Nations, and falsely asserted she was a successful business owner who had founded several multi-million-dollar companies. Additionally, a probable cause statement read that in order to rent a property in Lehi, Leard falsely stated to the landlord that she worked for the FBI and could not reveal the details of her work because everything she did was secret. It stated that Leard squatted on the property for 6 months and caused about $10,000 in damage upon her eviction. Leard also allegedly withdrew hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Exodus account to use for personal use, including purchasing a new car. She was arrested on Friday for multiple offenses. And Primordial has officially opened at Logan Amusement Park with only 6 full weeks left in their 2023 season. The roller coaster has been over 8 years in the making, according to Julie Freed, the park's director of special events. It was open to the public on Friday, and riders said they were happy with the experience. Freed said the coaster is a 3D interactive experience that moves at a maximum speed of 40 miles per hour with a ride time of just under 5 minutes. She said that in 2022 they had every indication that they would be able to open at the beginning of the season, which itself was pushed back twice due to unseasonably high snowfall. When asked about the reason for the delay, Freed said it was because everything about the ride was brand new. She added that they also lost a year of progress due to COVID-19. Freed said they have established a reservation system specifically for the 2023 season passport holders as a way to help them allow them to experience the ride before the season ends. Additional information about the reservation was sent to passport holders via email on Friday. Mississippi Auditor Shad White says a private prison company has returned $5.1 million to the Mississippi Department of Corrections for failing to provide enough workers at one of the prisons it was operating. White said on Monday that Utah-based Management and Training Corporation sent the money to the department last week. The corporation had operated the Marshall County Correctional Facility in Holly Springs, Mississippi, since August 2012 until the state took control of it in September 2021. The auditor's office found that the corporation failed to provide enough workers to ensure the safety of inmates and prison employees, but the company was still paid by the state as if it had. And Mitt Romney's decision not to run for another Senate term has a distant echo of his father's departure from politics 5 decades ago. Both the Utah senator and his father, former Michigan Governor George Romney, were top Republican contenders for the presidency but fell short of the White House. Both ended their careers in elected office with a sense that their party had lost its bearings, and both called for a more humane party, one that prioritizes civility and principle over resentments and score settling. In different eras, 50 years apart, George and Mitt Romney both found themselves isolated in a GOP increasingly uninterested in their brand of genteel country club conservatism. KBNU News Time is 5:37.
They're on their way home. 5 Americans detained for years in Iran in a deal with the U.S. criticized by Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell.
The Biden administration's record of appeasement and squandered leverage has left Americans less secure.
The deal is to unfreeze some Iranian money, transfer it to a bank in Qatar, which will restrict its use to non-military spending. The strike from the United Auto Workers Union in its 4th day, with picketers gathered outside the Toledo, Ohio Stellantis plant.
Higher wages, better benefits, better living for our families, all of our families.
A man arrested in the shooting death of a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy stopped at a red light Saturday has mental health problems, including schizophrenia, says his mother. The U.S. military says searchers found the wreckage of a missing F-35 jet fighter in South Carolina one day after the Marine Corps lost track of it after the pilot ejected with a parachute. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
KBNU weather for tonight. Slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm in our forecast. Other than that, partly cloudy skies, low around 50. 20% chance of showers and storms Tuesday afternoon, partly cloudy around 80 degrees, and keep that 20% chance in place Tuesday night into Wednesday. It's been to 82. It's 77 right now at KBNU. Fall is here, but those pesky weeds are still popping up all over your lawn. Call Logan Extermination to be ready for winter. Call 435-752-8450. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
What if you could come home every day to a peaceful retreat nestled in the mountains? A place that's only minutes from downtown Logan, but offers access to national forests from your own backyard, surrounded by mountains, horse riding, hiking trails, babbling brooks, and more. All this at Maple Creek Ranch, which is now in its 4th and final phase of development. 2.5-acre lots, your own piece of paradise that's remote yet accessible. And road improvements will be completed this summer. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Go to maplecreekranch.net. Maple Creek Ranch, just east of Franklin, Idaho.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello.
Yes, is Javi Silva there?
This is her.
A listener contacted us and told us how, in addition to your full-time job, you run the Franklin County Ambulance Service on your days off and serve our country in the Air Force Reserve. Is that right?
Yes, and I'm a mom.
You make me tired just hearing all of that. To say thank you for all that you do in our community, I have a $40 gift card for you to Firehouse Subs.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
The Above and Beyond Salute on News Talk KVNU.
For our military families, Americans can show appreciation through education.
Because of you, I will walk across the stage.
I can show my children that they can succeed at any point in their life.
I will be able to make a positive difference in the lives of other people.
I was able to achieve my dreams and work on eradicate some of the world's top diseases.
I was able to get the education that I always wanted.
Because of you, I will be paying it forward and serving my nation.
Join us at ThanksUSA.org.
Limitless local possibilities with Cache Valley Media Group, shaping the future of local engagement throughout northern Utah.
Stay connected with comprehensive local news and vibrant local radio personalities who are the voices you know and love, turning every broadcast into a familiar conversation.
We proudly sponsor and bring to life local events that define our region, celebrating the spirit that makes us unique.
Roar with the crowd as we rally behind local sports teams, uniting hearts in the thrill of victory.
And in the digital realm, we turn digital connections into real-life conversions.
From successful businesses thriving through our expertise to campaigns that spark conversations, we are writing the story of local success together.
Cache Valley Media Group is at your side, shaping engagement, sparking growth, and celebrating the essence of northern Utah.
Discover more at CacheValleyMediaGroup.com.
We're speaking today with former Governor Gary Herbert, and again, we're speaking about his time in office, his experience there, and how that has informed the launch of the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy. at Utah Valley University. You can find the Institute at uvu.edu/Herbert Institute. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. There is also a Twitter account, a Facebook page, Instagram platform used there as well where you can connect. They're putting out publications, policy papers, things like that. They will run a student intern program. They will have public policy forums, and already have had many that are well worth your time. A lot of those available online after the fact if you're not able to make it in person, a scholarship program, and more. And all of this coming from a mission set by Governor Herbert of developing future leaders, keeping community a focus of all of this that happens in Utah, and building trust, maintaining trust in our civic institutions. And Governor, there was a tweet on the Institute's account a little while ago, and I thought this was great because it's a question that, for years, decade plus of writing about and talking about politics, I'd never asked myself. And I threw it out to listeners that day, and I wanted to ask you what your answer to it is. And it's a fill-in-the-blank question that was tweeted out at the first part of August. And the challenge is, in your own words, finish this sentence. And the sentence is, positive civic engagement, to me, means... how do you answer that question through all of your experience?
Means having this respectful dialogue with whoever you're having the discussion with. And dialogue implies a two-way talking and listening, understanding. It's a dialogue. It's not just a lecture. It's not I'm right and you're wrong. It's let us reason together, saith Isaiah, in the scriptures, and see if we can come up with something that will help whoever we're representing or what we're arguing about, help us move in a positive direction together. And we should do that more often. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we generally have the same goals and objectives. Where we differ is the pathway to get there. What worked well for me, at least, was that I make no bones about it. I'm a right-of-center conservative. I think smaller government, more empowerment of the private sector answers most of the ills that we have in society and helps us solve most of the problems. It's not perfect, but the role of government in our lives is a big deal to me. And but I'm moderate in tone. I don't call people names. I don't say they're stupid or dumb or because they don't agree with me. I want to listen respectfully to their counter arguments and say maybe I can learn something. Maybe the truth's somewhere in the middle. Maybe we can find, like the founding fathers did when they had these kinds of things, a compromise. Woohoo! Is that a dirty word now to try to find common ground and compromise? So I'm right of center. I'm conservative, but I'm moderate in tone. And lastly, I'm inclusive in process. If we're going to have inclusivity, we can reason together and find different ideas, and maybe more than one way to skin the cat.
Sure. And
come up with a better process, which is important. Process sometimes is forgotten. Better process, which leads us to a better conclusion, leads us to a better policy. So whatever you are, you can be left of center, but be moderate in tone, be inclusive in process. Let's reason together. Let's talk to each other with mutual respect. We're all Americans, and we ought to treat each other as colleagues and friends, not enemies.
This is a conversation I had in the lead up to doing this interview today. I mentioned to a good friend of the show, former Logan City Council member, school board representative, and for a period of time education advisor to you in your administration, Cache Valley's own Tammy Pfeiffer, as we call her. And I said, I'm so excited. I'm going to get a chance to talk to the former governor about this Herbert Institute and how it ties in with civility, with faith in institutions, with engagement in the process. And we'd had her on the show several times talking about the Dignity Index, and she said, it's so fascinating to see this all come together from different angles, kind of shooting at the same thing. Governor Cox has his Disagree Better initiative that he's kind of touring around the states with the National Governors Institute. It's an important thing, but there are challenges to this, right? One of the frustrating things that we all see around us is that you're almost rewarded these days, even more so at the federal level than in the states for now, but you're almost rewarded by not being civil, right?
Well, unfortunately, we ask the question occasionally to people, why when we all say we don't want negative campaign, we don't want any dirt throwing, mud slinging, why do people do it then? Why do people running for office run negative campaigns? Sometimes they're very harsh, they're very unseemly. And the answer is because it works. And that's disappointing, the fact that that would help somebody get elected, particularly when most people say we don't want to see it, we don't want to have it. So at the end of the day, when we look at the problems, most of the problems come with we the people. Why are we tolerating this? Why do we accept that kind of bad, boorish behavior from some people? Those that maybe don't have a moral code, we think we ought to hold our leaders to a higher standard. I'm not expecting them to be perfect. Our founding fathers weren't perfect, but they were good people trying to do the best they could for the future generations yet to come. And so, and I think we as people ought to say to those running for office, there are certain things we expect from you in your conduct and how you campaign and conduct yourself, and it should be a higher plane than what we're seeing right now currently. It's disappointing to see some of the bashing and the nonsense that goes on in campaigns. Why do they do it though? Because it works. So we, the people, need to say, it's not going to work anymore. We want higher plane discussion, issues to be discussed. We don't want you calling each other names, throwing mud. And we, the people, can control it. We are in charge. We're the sovereigns. And so let's keep that in mind. And if we don't like what we're getting, let's not reward bad behavior, because all we're going to do then is get more bad behavior.
Sure. And that also applies to, our activities online and some of the initiatives the current governor has on that front. I always think in my own head, if people weren't sharing this stuff, it wouldn't be so pervasive. But this is fascinating, and I know that you have worked with Tammy Pfeiffer and Tim Shriver with the Dignity Index, and I'm sure you're plugged in with what Governor Cox is doing with the Disagree Better. By the way, while we're speaking about him, we won't tell him, but would you like to say anything bad? Any criticisms for the new governor? Anything he's doing not as well as you?
The governor's doing fine. He's doing really well. Everybody's a little different personalities, and you don't want us all to be the same. If we're all the same, one of us isn't necessary. So, again, I think Spencer's doing a great job, and he's a great lieutenant governor, and I expect he'll be a great governor, and is doing well. So the idea of disagree better is one that's I think most people can agree to. For a lot of us, it's a matter of quit watching your favorite cable TV news show, which reinforces every bias you've got. Republicans go to Fox, Democrats go to MSNBC, CNN, and you reinforce your prejudices there. We probably ought to have all Republicans listen to MSNBC and vice versa, with Democrats go to Fox, and maybe we'd have better dialogue and better understanding. Maybe we'd try to work together better and find solutions. And some of us were just ignorant. I think cable television, the rise of cable television news, and where they rather just report the news, become advocates for a point of view, progressive, liberal, conservative, libertarian. That's probably added to our us versus them mentality, and that's unfortunate.
Sure. It does make you think sometimes turning that cable news off could be a big boost. There's so much we could all do, and for listeners, that's what this kind of thing is all about. Something like the Gary Herbert Institute for Public Policy isn't just for students of Utah Valley University. It's for all Utahns. It's a way you can engage with not only some really interesting public policy and public policy forums that they invite people to, both in person and online, but also to get you thinking about this type of thing. The word civility can kind of start to sound a little bit like white noise when it's repeated too often, but asking questions like the Institute has done. What does civic engagement mean? What does respect mean? As Tammy Pfeiffer and Tim Shriver are asking, what does dignity mean to you? And do you expect that out of people you're going to vote for or allow to stay in office as a voter? If we start asking ourselves these questions, I think, one, we'll probably be surprised by the answers, but from your perspective, we'll probably be surprised at how easy it would be to fix a lot of this too, right?
Well, it starts with a desire. It starts with a desire that each one of us should have to be better and to do better. not just a matter of, well, I want to be better. Okay, well, you need to start doing better. And, as Tim Shriver says, and Tammy both, being civil, that's kind of a medium, the low bar. I can be civil to you and be very disgusted with what you say and how you say it and give you a shrug and a frown, but I'm civil, as opposed to, I appreciate your point of view. Tell me more. Maybe I can find common ground. I'm interested in learning more. If you don't like what we're proposing on this side, what is it about it you don't like and why? Having the ability to listen, be humble in your position, we'd have a lot better dialogue. And guess what? The end result is we'll accomplish a lot more. And good grief, look at what's happening in Washington, D.C., a perfect example of dysfunctionality. For example, just take one issue. I would take 10, but look at immigration. Immigration's been around as a problem since Ronald Reagan. That's the 1980s, for heaven's sake. We still have that issue. And both sides of the aisle know we've got an issue there we need to address. But they don't because they use it as a weapon.
Sure.
And they use it to arouse their base and to gin up people to support them for re-election. Unfortunately, too many people are saying, my first priority is to get re-elected or get elected. My second and third priority is it good for the people and is it what they want me to do?
Sure.
It should be the reverse of that. And so, unfortunately, we make bad decisions in policy or don't make a decision at all because we're trying to get reelected as opposed to solve the people's problem.
Sure.
Immigration, been around since Reagan. We all know it needs to be taken care of. There's ways to do it. There's areas that they have common ground, but they don't do it. They don't pass anything. They don't get anything done. And consequently, the people suffer.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
That's and they can't use the excuse that the solutions aren't out there because during your administration, Utah told them how to do it when it comes to immigration policy.
Yeah, we did, and then we got taken to court and sued.
Yeah, unfortunately, and because it really was a perfect example of how a problem like that can be solved. And yet, as you said, at the federal level, it's almost as if they don't want to give the issue up because it fundraises and gets them reelected. And
that's exactly right.
It's an unfortunate scenario.
It's very true.
That's why I'm so
That's
grateful.
why we have campaigns, and that's why the people, we are in charge. If you don't like the result, change your vote. Vote for somebody else. Get somebody else that will do what we, the people, want them to do and how we want them to do it.
That's right.
There's nobody to blame but ourselves.
That is well said, and a perfect place for us to wrap this up because, again, it all does come back to us, whether you're talking about a more dignified discussion, more community feel to the world around us, and even our politics, and faith that our civic institutions will hold up and that we continue to have a bright future as a state, as a country. All of it does come down to us. So what a fun conversation. Former Governor Gary Herbert, our guest again, and the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy can be found online at uvu.edu/Herbert Institute. I've linked to that on our Facebook page, but also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Follow them. They will challenge you. They will make you think about all of this in a different way, and they will also expose you to some great research and policy papers coming out of Utah Valley University. This is also an opportunity for students there on campus, but for you anywhere in the state of Utah to plug in and engage on this. And former Governor Gary Herbert, it has been a real pleasure to have you on the show today. I've taken about 15 minutes more time than we asked for, but it's been a pleasure, and I hope we get the opportunity to do it again sometime. I
hope so, too. It's been a joy to be with you, Jason, and all of us just need to think of the golden rule. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. We'll raise the bar in a way that we want to raise the bar and have better dialogue, better understanding, and get better things done. So
absolutely.
That's all this is.
It's a noble effort, and so glad to see you still engaged and taking on these big projects. And we'll check in, see how it's going.
Very good. Good luck to you, and good luck to all the audience.
Oh, thank you, and thank you very much for your time, and to our listeners for your time as well. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Dr. Josh Redd, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identified triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me, I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
That's it for today's show. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope you'll be with us tomorrow on the program. We'll be talking about the future of the trucking industry, from electric trucks to virtual training, and even, this is honestly a really cool thing if you've never seen that, highway trains. Yeah, that is something new to fleet management. Representatives of the Utah Freight Haulers Association gave a presentation to lawmakers during interim sessions this morning. Some highlights from that presentation tomorrow on the program, and how Utah State University was first forced to and then finally embraced and expanded on some really creative ideas for recruiting students from all around the world. That's tomorrow on KVNU's For the People. Hope you'll be with us. Thanks again to Governor Gary Herbert for spending this hour with us. If you're just tuning in and missed it, be sure to grab the podcast later on this evening and hear it in full, and be with us tomorrow on the program. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Stimulating talk you want. Information and news you need. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.